Breaking news today, a man in his 30s has been stabbed to death in High End, Knightsbridge, one of the poshest areas of London, as he tried to keep hold of his Rolex watch. A mugger pulled out a knife and stabbed him. Shocking state of affairs, but nothing new for London in 2025. I'll read the story and give you my views, but I think for the intro, I'll just say that this story segues neatly into another breaking story today, which perfectly sums up one of the most intelligent, reasonable, and dynamic new political stances I've ever seen. It could fix this problem and probably most criminality in the UK at a single stroke. An amazing policy decision, and no politicians thought of it. No, normal working class lads from Northern Ireland thought of it. Here's their ingenious, innovative solution. An effigy of migrants in a boat remains on top of a bonfire in Tyrone. Stop the boats. It's a bold strategy. I think these lads are going to go far in politics. Right, before we start with the video today, I just want to point this out. The BBC, as of today, has started charging people to view the endless vein of solid gold comedy that they write in the colonies. So now, apparently, if you want to read the BBC News, you have to pay $8.99 a month. Imagine that. So they're robbing you blind in the UK, using the full force of the law, and now they're cutting it off to everybody else. What if you lived in the UK for 40 years and you paid for your TV licence all your life? I mean, obviously I didn't, but you know, some people might have done. And then you want to just read the news every now and then. You got to pay for it. I made this point loads of times. If you pay your TV licence, they shouldn't have been able to sell you Planet Earth DVDs back in the day because you've already paid for it. The thieving, lying scumbags are trying to double dip, aren't they? Force you to pay for it in the UK and then force you to pay for it abroad. Is it free or not? Anyway, just thought I'd mention it. Doesn't bother me. Even if I didn't have a VPN, I might pay just because the BBC is funnier than the Viz. The difference being the BBC's hilarious because it's unintentional. So anyway, in service of all of the comedy they've gave me, I'll do them a quick plug. If you too want to support global worldwide paedophilia, communist revolutionaries, and endemic grooming gangs in the UK, why not give the BBC $8.99 a month? Murder probe launched after man 24 knifed to death over Rolex outside 5-star hotel in Knightsbridge. The victim was 24 and was knifed to death outside the £1,650 a night Park Tower Hotel and Casino. 1,650. I can't believe anyone would pay that much for a hotel. You have got money to burn if you pay. I wouldn't pay that much for a hotel. If the room was 10,000 square feet, the maid brought me breakfast in bed, and then after I'd finished me cornflakes, she gave me a gobble. That's unbelievable. And I'm assuming that doesn't happen because allegedly prostitution is still illegal in the United Kingdom. And oddly, they're good at policing soft victimless crimes where nobody gets hurt, and terrible at policing crimes like this, where a father gets a switchblade pushed through his kidneys, doubtless by a bloke who shouldn't have been in the country in the first place. And don't start, pinkos. We all know the statistics, we've all seen them. If you get stabbed to death in London, 9 out of 10 times, the bloke who did it looks like one of the stars off Route. Don't start whinging and telling me I'm stereotyping. No, it's called doing mathematics, thanks. A tourist from California said, I was standing right here on the street when it happened. I heard nothing until all the sirens came round. I was wearing my Rolex too. Now we have our guard up. The Rolex won't be back on this trip. Yeah, do yourself a favour. Eat your Rolex. You can shit it out when you get back to a civilised country. A worker at a luxury hotel near the scene said, I was working there last night. My secretary told me a masked man tried to rob his watch. It was a couple, but the guy pulled out his hand and he took a knife out and stabbed him. Unbelievable. 2 American guests staying at the hotel said we were out around the same time and my father passed by and it happened right there. The concierge said it was a stabbing. There was an argument and the attacker was on a bike. It's kind of sad being in London, not being able to wear expensive jewellery. Okay, so all the rich people are leaving thanks to Sad Sack Khan. And now, when these lot go home and say to their friends, oh, how was your trip in London? And they reply, not bad. Saw some red post boxes, went to Buckingham Palace, Watched a young father bleed to death on the pavement. 6 out of 10. Are they going to be coming back? No, they aren't. So all the rich people are leaving, and now all the tourists are thinking, I'll tell you what, if I want to go and see people get stabbed to death in the middle of the street, I'll just cut out the middleman and fly directly to Mogadishu. But enough of that, let's segue into the other big story of the day, which is both interesting to read about and a very simple solution to fighting the rising crime epidemic. Genius, boys. Northern Ireland plans to burn an effigy of a boat condemned. Plans to burn an effigy atop a bonfire in a small town in Northern Ireland have been condemned by some politicians and called disgusting and hateful. Supporters of the bonfire claim it's cultural expression. The period around July 12th is the height of the annual period known as marching season, when mostly Protestant groups, also known as Unionists, hold parades, marches and bonfires, celebrating a Protestant victory over Catholics in 1690. Ah yes, when King Billy gave a bunch of left-footers the good news. What a great day. This year, an effigy of a boat with life-size dummies wearing life jackets was placed on top of a bonfire pyre due to be lit in the village of Moygashel, County Tyrone. Below the effigy were perfectly reasonable signs about stopping boats and putting veterans before refugees. Many politicians condemned the effigy. Colm Gidenew, an out-communist from Sinn Féin, described the act as absolutely disgusting. Another councillor, porridge-brain terrorist supporter Malachy Quinn from the SDLP, said he had reported the display to the police and told The Guardian those responsible for this hateful display claim to be celebrating British culture. This isn't pride, it's poison. And a third politician from the Liberal Alliance Party called for the display to be dismantled. Those responsible only seek to incite fear and spread far-right beliefs. Yeah, it's weird that, isn't it? It's almost like the unending hypocrisy of the left keeps spreading like a cancer, because I seem to recall it's quite a tradition to have some salty effigies over there. And wasn't it last year when they all proudly displayed this one? Yeah, that's an effigy to be burned of Nigel Farage, a skinhead on a leash. And both of them have got booze. So basically this is just a slur on anybody who's a normal working class bloke who likes to drink pints and votes for right-wing parties. Seems like it's totally fine to set them on fire, the people who actually live there and have done for 10 generations. Seems like they're sort of okay with putting them on the pyre. But of course, there's a protected class, and you can't say anything negative about them. And obviously the BBC were crying about it as well. Parties condemn bonfire effigy. Amusingly though, what makes me laugh about it is, obviously the blatant double standards and hypocrisy, but what makes me laugh about it is that they always say these people are at risk. Have you noticed that? They're always crying about it, saying, these people are at risk. They're at risk. But every day you see this type of stuff. And as this website points out, in early June, protesters clashed with police after it was reported that 2 teenage boys attempted to surprise sex a young girl. There's been hundreds of famous, well-publicised incidents in the last couple of years over in Northern Ireland and in the Republic of Ireland, where young lasses, and even men, we all know what happened to that bloke under Newport Bridge in Middlesbrough where he was walking his dog, and then he copped an unfortunate one through the back of his trousers from a recent arrival. And then we get even more serious cases, like the murder of Ireland Murphy, which you all know about, where a young woman got her life ended by a recent arrival, but they spend all day, every day telling you, these people are at risk. They're not at risk. They're not at risk. When was the last time an illegal immigrant got kicked to death in the street in Northern Ireland or in the Republic of Ireland? Has that ever happened? Ever? But the inverse is true. We can all point at hundreds, nay, thousands of stories across the UK and in Northern Ireland and in the Republic of Ireland where local women and men have been abused, accosted, surprise sexed, and yes, occasionally murdered by the people that move in. So the people at risk aren't hairy-ass blokes from the third world. The people at risk are vulnerable British and Irish people. That's who's at risk. And as for Colm's bollocks here, this is a violent, deplorable act and clearly a hate crime. A hate crime. It's a victimless crime. It's merely a political statement, 0 victims, unlike the people who get a big hairy hand stuffed down the knickers involuntarily on a Saturday night out when they get dragged down an alley by 8 Marlies who shouldn't be there in the first place. There's a big difference. An effigy is a victimless crime. A human being getting dragged down a dark alley and having one donkeyed into her against her will by a bloke with a name entirely made up of consonants, right? That is a crime, an actual crime. So wind your neck in. And you know what? It's just the same. It's just the same unending hypocrisy. Angela Rayner and Keir Starmer and anybody else on the left can do as they please. They can burn whatever they want. They can attack Theresa May or Liz Truss or any of the women said to be conservative, because most of them aren't, or right-wing. Any woman who's on the right on politics is fair game. They can send them death threats, surprise sex threats, make effigies of them, set them on fire, do whatever they want. And then the second people mock Rachel Reeves for crying because she's grossly incompetent and emotionally incontinent, then, oh, it's beyond the pale. You've got to be nice to them. Yeah. Shut up, do one, no one cares. Endless hypocrisy. It's all the left have got. You know it, I know it, this story proves it, and 10 dozen others beside. So in my opinion, we should be worried about young British and Irish women getting accosted by dinghy divers much more than we should worry about an inanimate object being set on fire as part of a centuries-old tradition. Okay? Easy. But that's just my opinion. As usual, you are free to disagree and be, publicly wrong on the internet, so please have at it in the comments. If you liked it, please like it and share it, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Alright, toodle pip. Cheers.